Thank you. Okay, point here. So that was me, and oh no, I didn't press it. Can we go back? Can we go back? Done. Okay, that was me and my partner on the first day, December the 8th, 2001, with AirAsia. There was a bird and the AirAsia logo. I'm not quite sure why airlines are so preoccupied with animals. In Malaysia we have birds, tigers, kangaroos, but I decided that we would get rid of the bird. We had very limited money, and this is the first branding lesson for all the future entrepreneurs here. You have limited money, why waste your money on 2 images? If you think of the biggest brands in the world, one image comes to your mind. If I say Nike, you're thinking of the swoosh. If I say Coca-Cola, you're thinking of Coca-Cola in the writing. It's very rare that 2 images are stuck in your mind. So we got rid of the bird, which I always thought was facing the wrong way anyway, and we used AirAsia as our logo. And we changed our color to red. We thought red is the best color in the world, and I'm sure many of you in Russia believe that as well. So everyone thought I wanted to be like Richard Branson, but honestly, we are very good friends, but we're very different. I have no intention to go to the moon. I'm much happier having a drink in Red Square. What would you do in the moon anyway when you got there? So we changed it to red, and that was New AirAsia. That was the old AirAsia, 2 737s, domestic routes, and this is the new AirAsia. So it's amazing. All right, sorry, go back. So it's amazing what color can do. And different looking girls as well. So over the last 15 years, we've had a remarkable story, and I'll tell you a little bit about the story. I'm having a real difficulty with this. There we go. So we started with 2 planes, and this slide's a little, we now have actually 205 planes. So 15 years ago we started with 2 planes, and now we have 205 planes. We have airlines in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, India, and Japan. In the first year we carried 200,000 passengers, and this year we will carry 60 million passengers, which has been a remarkable journey for us over the last 15 years. Thank you. That's been our passenger growth. Whoops. And we're the 4th largest airline in Asia now, which if you think we only started 15 years ago, is kind of special. And over the last 15 years, for the last 8 years, AirAsia has won the world's best low-cost airline 8 times in a row, which is the first time an airline has ever won the Skytrax Award 8 times in a row, which is something we're really proud about. Low cost doesn't mean low quality, and my whole presentation is really about the people in the company and how we did it. I won't go through that, that's boring. So, what's our secret? I think the first thing is we did 3 or 4 things that were very different. Firstly, the main part of this presentation is about people. And I think for all the CEOs that are here, for all the future leaders, your biggest asset are the people in your company. And most companies do not utilize the people in their company. And that's what I'll spend most of my time talking about. But we started by flying to places that no one ever flew before. We flew to markets that no one ever thought about flying. And that is, I think, innovation is not just about technology. Innovation is about how you treat your people, how you look at the market, etc. So we started flying to 2 or 3 destinations that were never flown before in aviation history. And right now, 60% of AirAsia routes are routes that have never been flown before. So Bandung, for instance, was a destination that we flew, that I used to record music in. Not a single airline flew to this destination. And I thought, that's crazy. You know, there are like 6 million people there. So we started flying there, and we were the only airline flying there. We couldn't actually park in front of the terminal because our plane was too heavy, and so we had to park by the Air Force Base. Today, 15 years on, we fly 32 times a day, and 12 airlines fly. So there's tons, and I'm sure the stories in Russia, there are tons of airports that are not utilized, and if you put a low enough fare, you can stimulate the whole market. Shantao in China, the governor of Guangdong province, asked me to fly there, and I said, where is it? I've never heard of it. And he said, oh, it's about 1 hour away from Guangzhou. And I said, how many people? He said, 8 million people. I said, we'll fly there tomorrow. And now we're about to start 2 flights a day to Guangzhou. So again, in all your businesses, there are opportunities in everything you did, and that's what we found at AirAsia. But the bulk of my presentation today is about people. And I think that is what we have done, which has been very special in AirAsia. We've gone from 200 people to now we have 17,000 staff. We're the only airline in the world of that size with no unions. There's not a single union. Everyone has my phone number. Everyone knows me. And if anyone has a problem, they can email me, call me, etc. We have a very, very flat structure. And that, I always say, I'd rather have 17,000 brains working for me than just 10. Many companies in Asia, the management decide everything, and then the rest are implementers. We think differently. We think everyone can contribute to the company. So I'd rather have everyone being able to give ideas, being able to talk, not being worried about hierarchy, and not being worried about taking failure. And that is how we've had so many great ideas, and that is how people are so motivated and driven to drive this company much further. So I'll give you a few stories of how we've been different. When I was initially, when I first started AirAsia, I don't think you can be an effective CEO unless you're prepared to go to the ground. So I used to carry bags once every month. I used to be a cabin crew once every 2 months. And I used to be check-in assistant one every 3 months. Because check-in is the toughest job in the aviation business. The next time you're checking in, be nice to the person across your road. And I did it for 2 reasons. One, I think you cannot be an effective CEO, as I said, unless you go down to the ground and you know what's happening. And 2, I was looking for talent. I couldn't go from 2 planes to 200 planes without a lot of great people. And so I wanted to look for people in the most unconventional way. And that's why I did the job that I did. And I'll give you 2 stories related to what I did. When we went from the 737 to the Airbus 320, it's slightly taller. So we used to throw the bags in to the 737. Well, actually not throw the bags in. Lovingly put the bags, kiss the bag, put it in, especially when we come to Moscow. With the Airbus, my boys said, we need belt loaders. And I said, no, we can't afford it. It's too expensive. So the next time I was carrying bags, they put me on the Indonesian flights. Now, people who fly on AirAsia generally bring their house with them. People who fly to Indonesia bring their neighbor's house as well. So there was a lot of bags. And I almost destroyed my back carrying those bags. And I said, okay, I'm wrong. You're right. We go buy belt loaders. And if I didn't do that job myself, I would have made the wrong decision. I probably would have destroyed many people's backs. And I probably would have started a union as well. So I think it's very important for leaders of the company to get down on the ground and make sure you know what's happening in your company and what your people feel. And until today, I know exactly the pulse of the company and what's going on and who's unhappy and who's happy, etc., etc. Even though we've grown to 17,000 staff. And the second, when I was carrying all these bags, I found that we had so many bright kids in the company who didn't have money to go for further education. And so, they left school at 13 or 14 or 16, and they were much smarter than me. But just because of their financial situation, they had to leave school early. So our first cadet pilot program, I opened it up to everyone in the company. I didn't care whether they went to Oxford University, Cambridge, or Malaysian University. As long as they want to be a pilot, they could apply for the exams. And of the first 15 cadets, 11 came from within the company. Some were store boys, some were in the accounts department, etc. And one boy who left school when he was 13 was carrying bags for us. And then he had the highest marks in Malaysian Flying Academy. So these 11 boys took their exams, they became pilots, and the boy who carried bags for us continued to have the highest marks ever in the Malaysian Flying Academy. And today, he's a captain. So you imagine, he joined us to carry bags. 9 years on, he's a captain on a brand new Airbus 320. So that is how we have motivated people, and that is how we have driven that anything is possible in our company. This boy Coogan on the right-hand side was a dispatch boy. He used to just dispatch mail, and his dream was to be a pilot. So we said, go for it. And he failed the exam about 8 times. But we said, never give up, just keep going for it, just keep going for it. And he finally got through, and it was very emotional for me. 6 months ago, he became a first officer and is now flying. And we have hundreds and hundreds of examples of that, of people who have joined in low jobs but have progressed to very, very senior jobs in the company. We have a cabin crew who is now the CEO of AirAsia Singapore. The CEO of AirAsia Malaysia was just a banking clerk